Hello, this is Dr. Ari Vandewa. I'm the Assistant Professor of Trombone and Music Business at the University of South Alabama, and you're listening to the 2023 Middle School All-State Technical Podcast. First, remember that All-State auditions are a test of following instructions. Make sure that you've marked out all of your repeats, that you've highlighted your dynamic and articulation changes, and your fermata. The recommended tempo for this etude can be very fast for some players, so feel free to take it at a more comfortable speed. Remember that clean and clear is always better than fast for auditions. Much like the lyrical etude, it's always important to prioritize certain aspects of music that you're playing for an audition. For this etude, my order of priorities would be the following. Number 1, the rhythm and the time. Number 2, the notes. Number 3, the tone. Number 4, the articulation. And number 5, the dynamics. All of these are important, but if you focus on this order, you may find that you're more successful than if you go in a different order. First, make sure that your rhythm is very, very even throughout. Anything with repeated notes like this is going to have a tendency to drag, especially repeated articulations. Try also not to rush the 16th notes or just play them totally out of time and just be locked in on those 8th notes as well, right? Sometimes that change of rhythm, we can change our tempo on accident without even realizing that we've done it. One thing that I do that you'll notice in the recording is I take a brief pause and a breath after the fermata in measure 16. Just make sure you don't lose time after that or change the tempo after that. Really watch the pitch of the B natural in measure 16, making sure that if you're a trombonist that you get all the way out to 7th position. I use my trigger, which helps a lot. If the C's in measure 15 are in tune too, it'll make it all the more likely that you land on 7th position perfectly. Make sure that you make the switch from A flats to A naturals as they come up throughout the first 8 measures, and then switch back to A flats in measure 9. One of the things that happens to a lot of players when playing technical etudes or anything that requires a lot of tonguing is that their sound gets very, very small and even gets kind of spitty. Make sure that when you're playing a 16th note that you still have a great sound and that it sounds just as nice and warm and pleasant as your quarter notes. Additionally, don't let it get too small as you diminuendo into that softer dynamic, right? Softer and fast don't mean that your sound has to be tight and shrill. Watch the pitch on the E flats above the staff and remember that they're in slightly further out 3rd position rather than right in 3rd, right? That's how we adjust the pitch in that partial. I prefer to think of these staccato attacks as being light and bouncy rather than short. Another thing to be careful of is the length of your staccato 8th notes. Remember, your 16ths, 8ths, and quarters are all different lengths, even when they have the same articulation marking. Don't let staccato mean just the front of the note. Make sure that you accent the E flats in measure 4 and 20, but don't accent the other quarter notes in the piece. Finally, make sure that the switch to a da articulation or natural slur is apparent during the slurred 8ths. For dynamics, make sure that you don't start too loud or too soft, especially at that mezzo forte. I prefer to think of mezzo forte as comfy. I pick up the horn and I'm not trying too hard, right? Forte is I'm starting to push a little bit, and then piano, I'm relaxing, right? Feel free to hold out the G for about 2 beats or longer, and just take a nice comfy breath before the entrance in measure 17. The biggest challenge in an etude like this sometimes can be practicing it, right? Suffering through repetitions, starting your metronome at half speed until you've mastered all of the rhythms, all of the notes, with a great tone, great articulation, and good dynamics, and then working up slowly from there. For a piece like this, I recommend starting at 50 and going up by 5 clicks and 5 clicks and 5 clicks and 5 clicks over a couple of weeks until you get to the target tempo so that you're really in control. If you can't get all the way up to 100, remember, it's all about cleanliness and accuracy, not as much about speed, okay? Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful, and happy practicing.